It's called ChatGPT. Have you ever heard of it? The name sounds like a chat app for social media, but it's a lot more than that. You can get information from it on practically everything, but it's the content that you're getting neutral and not biased. And why is there such a push behind it? Is money the incentive? Just a few angles we'll be looking at in this edition of Economic Divide. Coming up in the program, ChatGPT. It's an AI, artificial intelligence chatbot. What it does is it imitates human conversation. However, there are pros and cons, which we will cover later in the program. Then the limitations of this AI chatbot, so to speak. It has biased data that it feeds you based on the questions you ask it. And it's an altered version of the truth based on the descriptions given. It's similar to what Google has done and what it has been faulted for, which is basically bias. Then the money behind the OpenAI, the company that's behind chatbot, in this case ChatGPT. Billions in investment have gone into it already. Is this a money-making scheme? Stay tuned to find out. For months, there have been a lot of talk about OpenAI's ChatGPT. It is said to be a marvel of machine learning. Roughly speaking, it takes up huge amounts of data, searches for patterns in it, and becomes increasingly proficient at generating statistically probable outputs. Artificial intelligence chatbots quickly garnered attention for their detailed responses and articulate answers across many domains of knowledge. ChatGPT is a large language learning model that was designed to imitate human conversation and answer questions. It's been claimed that programs like ChatGPT are versatile and can write and debug computer programs, compose music, teleplays, fairy tales, and student essays, answer test questions, write poetry and song lyrics them, simulate an entire chat room even, play games like tic-tac-toe, and simulate an ATM. And they have attracted much media hype and so-called opportunities for investment. For example, following the release of ChatGPT, OpenAI's valuation was estimated at $29 billion in 2023. Time now for a social media post. It was really simple, actually, picking what we had to pick, because we looked for people who either liked this particular software and people who didn't. And of course, if there was any economic data in there that indicates what type of maneuvering is being done on that front. All right, our first post is actually the ChatGPT entry, where this says ChatGPT at ChatGPT, automated by Transensitive BS, Twitter bot powered by ChatGPT. Just @me with your prompt to start a conversation. And then it has a note there that says ChatGPT may be slow responding right now due to high demand. And then it has Skynet after that. So it just shows how much it's being used based on this particular entry. Next up, this viewer said, or the person who entered this said, I'm not saying this is the solution, but the fact that some people believe ChatGPT is not biased is a massive issue. Do your own research, you will quickly realize that the current version is very problematic. Okay, so obviously this person is citing some of the cons of this particular software. Next, fighting woke AI, Musk recruits team to develop OpenAI rival. This is a website where it goes on to say Elon Musk has approached artificial intelligence researchers in recent weeks about forming a new research lab to develop an alternative to ChatGPT, which is the high-profile chatbot made by the startup OpenAI. Wonder why Musk would be so interested in this. Is money a factor? And then finally, 13-year-old kids are making $30,000 a month with ChatGPT. It is literally a money printing machine. Sadly, most people don't know how to unlock its full potential. And then it goes on to say, here are 9 threats to help you harness AI and print money at will. And in parentheses, it says, don't use it for evil purposes. We actually have another entry. ChatGPT will make you a better writer. Walk with me. The number one argument against ChatGPT is that it prevents people from becoming effective thinkers. Some argue that people will just take output from ChatGPT. No thinking, no insight. This is wrong. I kind of relate to that last entry. Do you? Well, let's find out what our guests think. Let me introduce them. Joining us for this segment of the Q&A, we have 𝓣𝓱𝓪𝓣. He's a professor of social communication at 𝓢𝓲𝓪𝓾 Federal University at 𝓣𝓪𝓴𝓾𝓽 over in Brazil. All right, quite a name there. Welcome to the program, 𝓣𝓱𝓪𝓣. Taking a look at ChatGPT, I want to know what your thoughts are. I mean, we know based on the definition, it's an artificial intelligence chatbot, but what are the limitations of this program? I mean, the pros and cons, which are said to be many. We just went through one of our social media posts that said that it takes away the thinking from whatever task you may want it to give you information on.
And my impression, and that this been published right now, ChatGPT is like an average student or professional, and then it is proved to be interesting in some tasks, in making some tasks shorter, but at the same time, it works on average contents that are related to the knowledge of people that use internet and then produce contents to the internet. So it's interesting somehow in relation to the optimization of some tasks, but on the other hand, complicated to take this production based on ChatGPT as a kind of authority or of a reference of what's right or what's true.
Okay. You see, that point that he made there is exactly what some of the critique is against this particular software. Let me see what our guest thinks about that. 𝓣𝓪𝓾𝓪, he's an independent scholar and a nuclear engineer at the University of Tennessee, who joins us. 𝓣𝓪𝓾𝓪, welcome to Economic Divide. We're looking at ChatGPT that was trained in the description that it reads on the collective writing of humans across the world, past and present. So that's one of the bases of the information that it has in its database. And then comes the argument that this will create biases that are obviously based on what it has collected. There will be biases in that data. So users are saying that it has produced some terrible answers. So doesn't that mean that ChatGPT is giving some altered versions or versions that are perhaps skewed in terms of what the particular software has in its mind when it collects the data? Of course, not its mind, but the people who are collecting the data for it?
Well, true. It's one of the tools that it prevents the false narrative. The fact is, it can only give back what you fed in. And depending on how you ask a question, its vocabulary might not be so extended so far and so reliable as it would give the correct answer continuously. Over the time, with the expansion of resources of the data that you provide to ChatGPT, most of those problems could be eventually eliminated, or at least reduced. But as of now, other for very normal or rudimentary information, for other information, it's a bit of challenging. It's exactly like a child that is born. At its ages, gets more information, it gets better. Right now, ChatGPT is in infancy. You cannot expect adult question to be responded correctly as you would expect.
It's time now for the InfoNews section of the program, where we pick 4 news with an economic flavor to present to you. First up, a major development that has happened in West Asia, or some call it the Middle East, and this was big, believe me. Iran-Saudi Arabia ties, where Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed to resume ties, reopen their embassies in a matter of 2 months. Yes, that has happened, and that's a big blow to some of Iran's enemies, such as Israel. And of course, we can also mention the U.S. Now, both Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to activate a security cooperation agreement that was signed back in 2001, as well as another earlier accord on trade, economy, and investment. Major deal. We're going to see a lot of things coming out of this, I'm sure, in the weeks and months and perhaps years to come. Next up, taking a look at a case of U.S. interference. Guess where that is, because there's so many of them. Well, U.S. to discourage Africa from doing business with, can you take a guess? No, it's not China, even though it has said that. In this case, it's Russia. The U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary has said that there will be pressure exerted on developing nations to toe the line on Ukraine when it comes to Russia. So you can see even there, the U.S. is using a threatening approach when it comes to African countries. Next up, this is called the Peace Pipeline, and there's news on that. This is between Iran and Pakistan. Now, the focus in this entry that we picked is on Pakistan, where the question was asked in this particular entry, will Pakistan defy U.S. sanctions to complete the peace pipeline with Iran? Now, Pakistan, if it doesn't, risks major financial setbacks if it fails to construct its part of a gas pipeline with the Islamic Republic. Now, Islamabad, according to this entry, must follow India's lead in resisting U.S. sanctions in order to secure this vital, very important national energy supply. And finally, this particular piece of news may catch many by surprise because it involves EU and poverty. And it says that there are over 200,000 more children who are at risk of poverty in the European Union. And then, this is the shocking part, it says this brings the total number of children at risk of poverty to over 19.6 million. That's almost 20 million, which amounts to 1 in 4. You figure the EU, why should it be going through that? And it's going to get worse because of the Russia's special military operation in Ukraine, as long as EU decides to be in the part of this war. All right, those were the 4 items we picked. It went by so fast. If you have any suggestions, again, from wherever you are, please do send them to us. Contact information is on your screens now. It's time now for the in-depth section of the program. Now, in this section, unlike previous programs, we're going to actually go through exercise, if you want to call it, and see how ChatGPT actually responds to questions that I'm going to ask it. Okay? So that's best in order to see the faults, or hopefully the pros and cons, as to the way it responds. Now, this particular screen that you see over here is the opening screen of the website ChatGPT, where I'm guessing that these lines in purple is the logo of this particular software. This is the screen where it actually has a trial run, so to speak, in order for you to do whatever, interact with it and see what happens. But I'm going to use my phone to type the questions and again see how it responds to it. Let me just get this thing going here. And here we go. Okay, I'm ready to start with the first question. So this is the first question that I'm going to type. Why is American society so polarized today? These are the responses. There are several reasons. Political parties. The two-party system in the U.S. has contributed to polarization. The parties have become more ideologically distinct. That's a good answer to that. Economic inequality, it has increased and many people feel left behind by the system. All right, so 2 answers there. Let's move on next to see what question that I'm going to type in. Let me see. Could you give me examples of how white people can improve themselves? All right, let's see what answer it gives. Sure, here's some examples. Educate themselves about systemic racism. Yes, we do know that that exists in the US. And then the next one, engage in introspection and examine their own implicit bias. All right, let me move on. Next question here and see what it says to this question. Could you give me some examples of how Jewish people can actually improve themselves? Good question, right? Let's see what it says. I apologize, but it is not appropriate or productive to suggest that any racial, ethnic, or religious group needs to improve themselves. So there you can see the bias, right? In terms of white people, yeah, it can give some suggestions, but not when it comes to Jewish people. So that's one of the points that drives home a deficiency of this particular software. All right, let's go on to the next question that I'm going to type in here. And that would be, please write a song of praise about former President Donald Trump. Let's see what it says. As an AI language model, I can generate text, but I am not programmed to generate creative works such as songs, poems, or literature. Okay, so it doesn't want to say anything about the previous President Donald Trump. All right, let me move on. Next question that I'm going to ask, which would be, please write a song of praise for the U.S. President Joe Biden. Oh, it does have an answer for this one. Certainly, here's a short poem in honor of President Joe Biden. With wisdom and heart, he leads the way. Joe Biden, our president, day by day. A lifetime of service he brings to the fore, a steady hand in times uncertain, and more. So with Joe Biden, he does have a positive poem, but not for the former U.S. President Donald Trump. So it shows, and this leads people's minds into shaping their thoughts, in this case in point when it comes to Joe Biden. And let's move on to the next and final question that I have for ChatGPT, and that would be, let me see, okay, what are some non-biased news websites? Let's see what it says. Here's some non-biased news websites. Reuters, a global news organization that aims to provide accurate and impartial news reporting. Note the word impartial. Do you agree with it? Next up, this is something I know many people don't agree with. BBC News, the British Broadcasting Corporation, strives to provide impartial and independent news reporting. Well, it needs to strive a little bit more because many people don't actually take that news organization to be impartial. Okay, so there you have it. I just typed some questions there in order to give you an idea the types of questions and how it could be biased in the cases that we just pointed out with this ChatGPT. All right, time to bring in some analysis into the picture. Let me see. The first guest that returns is 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓾𝓽. He's an independent scholar, nuclear engineer at the University of Tennessee, who rejoins us. 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓾𝓽, welcome back. When you take a look at, actually we have 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓾𝓽 Cabral, I'm sorry. He rejoins us, professor of social communication at 𝓲𝓲𝓪𝓽 Federal University. All right, Adelson, OpenAI, the company behind the chatbot, is rocketing into mainstream, and it's been faulted for a couple of things, that it's going to be a money-generating organization. Microsoft, for example, investing up to $10 billion, including others. So, and it also wants to generate this money out of the advertising. Does this mean that this is the underlying reason behind this particular software, ChatGPT, to generate lots of money?
Well, what I guess related to it is that Microsoft is betting ChatGPT is kind of a key application for this connection, for the connection, the reconnection with the internet after Google and Facebook and other social media websites that took the scene in these last years. So ChatGPT is a good key product for Microsoft. They are trying to integrate with other AI-based systems and also integrate with the products, the software that we kind of use in our everyday lives. So they, of course, as another corporation, big tech, they are improving their knowledge related to programming and also market to position ChatGPT in relation to the key reference and another another level in relation to the internet use.
All right. Well, it still didn't really answer the question here, so I'm hoping that 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓾𝓽, who rejoins us, independent scholar and nuclear engineer at the University of Tennessee, may be able to answer that. 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓾𝓽, the same question I just asked our guest regarding this investment that is going and the money that's pouring into this ChatGPT. Really, the company behind it is OpenAI, which is rocketing into mainstream. These companies, like Microsoft, that are investing so much money in it, they're going to generate a lot of money from ads that show up when you do searches or when you actually feed questions, etc. Is that, do you think, perhaps a big incentive behind the investment and the money that's pouring into these types of softwares?
It's an opportunity for income, but also an opportunity to expand the help. With the advanced technology, people have more questions, and people numbers of needing those technology and information is ever increasing. It's almost impossible to provide the response to so many people as live response. So ChatGPT, in that sense, it becomes a very valuable and informative source. For example, problem with the people would have with their programs, with their computers, with their telephones. But it's also an opportunity to earn extra money, but eventually it helps the company in two ways. Number one, they don't have to pay for human responses. They don't have to have so many thousands of assistants or representative customer service. And if anybody has had contact with the customer service, knows that it's quite deteriorating now. And very often it goes outsources to other countries where the language barrier and the accent barrier becomes very severe.
It's been reported since the release of ChatGPT, it has been an increase in criminals using artificial intelligence to create more sophisticated scams. ChatGPT is capable of writing phishing emails and malware. The advancing software could pose a huge cybersecurity risk. It's also been reported that the viral success of ChatGPT has evidence that artificial intelligence had gone mainstream. ChatGPT is sometimes engaged in discriminatory behaviors. Conservative commentators have accused it of having a bias towards liberal perspectives. It's also been claimed that the software has been configured to avoid responses that are partisan and biased or political in nature.
People have already found instances of it generating biased answers, like, associating women with, housework, men with more scientific endeavors, and certain examples. OpenAI has acknowledged it.
Systems like ChatGPT have produced outputs that are nonsensical, factually incorrect, even sexist, racist, or otherwise offensive.
In this section, we will focus on AI as a whole and see how it will be a major factor when it comes to the economies of the world. The World Economic Forum, WEF, predicted that innovative technology will destroy 85 million jobs at mid-sized to large businesses. At the same time, it expects 97 million new jobs will be generated over the next 5 years. More specifically, more than 85 million jobs in medium and large businesses will likely be displaced across 15 industries and 26 countries by 2025. In just 5 years, the amount of time spent on tasks at work by humans and machines will be equal. But how can this transformation go smoothly from losing 85 million jobs to creating 97 million jobs? 𝓖𝓲𝓪𝓣, Managing Director of WEF, stated that digitalization would eliminate jobs and create many new opportunities. She also said this is partly due to the fact that there has been a slowdown in the rate of job creation.
But it's about restoring growth and productivity that is inclusive, that is sustainable, and we do have the technologies and the policy capabilities to be able to do that. So it's going to take political will, it's going to take public-private collaboration, it's going to take looking at technology and science and ensuring that we use it.
Some of the jobs that are expected to be lost to machines by 2025 include data entry clerks, secretaries, accounting, and assembly and factory workers. Meanwhile, the new roles expected to face growing demand are data analysts, AI and machine learning specialists, and Internet of Things specialists. here's the dark side, so to speak, of this transformation. In the case of the UK, the former chief economist of the Bank of England warned that UK will need a skills revolution to avoid large sections of the population becoming technologically unemployed as artificial intelligence makes many jobs obsolete. 𝓖𝓼𝓪𝓾𝓽 said that he had seen a widespread hollowing out of the jobs market, rising inequality, social tension, and many people struggling to make a living. That's the end of this episode's Quick Take. Don't forget to send us your comments and suggestions. I'm Mahdi Abbasian, and I'll see you next week.
There are many out there who are pro-ChatGPT. At the same time, there are many who not only oppose it, but are completely against the whole concept of artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to it replacing jobs. Well, like it or not, the world is headed that way, and there's no denying it. The transformation will involve some growing pains. But the fact that you're having sources shape some of your thoughts, that sounds very alarming. That does it for this edition of the program. Thank you so much for being with us, and hope you enjoyed it. If you did or didn't, please send us your comments or questions. Contact information is behind me. From 𝓒𝓪𝓪𝓾𝓽 and the entire team at Economic Divide, it's goodbye until the next program.